I found my daughter shivering on Christmas while his family laughed by the fireplace. I'm Auntie Jasmine, a 52-year-old black woman who raised my daughter to be strong, educated, and proud. When I found her shivering outside her in-law's mansion on Christmas Eve while her husband's family laughed by the fireplace inside, I knew something was terribly wrong. By New Year's, Derek and his entire family had lost everything: their reputation, their business, and their freedom. Some say I went too far. I say I didn't go far enough. The morning after that Christmas, I sat at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. The old clock on the wall ticked away the seconds, each one a reminder of how blind I'd been. Weak winter sunlight filtered through the curtains, but it couldn't warm the ice that had settled in my chest. My hands trembled as I replayed the scene in my mind: my baby, my Maya, standing in the snow in that thin dress, her lips tinged blue, while Derek's mother Catherine peered through the window and laughed. Had I been such a fool? 3 years I'd watched my daughter marry into that family. 3 years I'd smiled at their condescending remarks, their barely veiled racism, their constant reminders that Maya should be grateful Derek chose her. 3 years I'd bitten my tongue because my daughter insisted she was happy, that she loved him, that his family would come around. The room felt like it was spinning. I gripped the edge of the table, forcing myself to breathe. Let me take you back to the beginning, because you need to understand who my Maya was, who she still is, beneath all the pain they caused her. I remembered the day she was born, 28 years ago. I was a single mother working 2 jobs, but when I held that baby girl in my arms, I made her a promise. She would have every opportunity I never had. And I kept that promise. I worked myself to the bone to send her to the best schools. I sat with her every night, helping with homework, teaching her that she was brilliant, that she was worthy, that she could be anything she wanted to be. Maya graduated top of her class from Howard University. She was beautiful inside and out with my brown skin, her father's bright eyes, and a smile that could light up a room. She was confident, accomplished, with a career in marketing that she'd built from nothing. She owned her own condo by 25. She was everything I dreamed she could be. Then she met Derek Richardson at a corporate networking event. I'll never forget the day she brought him home to meet me. He was handsome. I'll give him that: tall, polished, with the kind of confidence that comes from money. Old money. The Richardsons owned a chain of luxury hotels across the East Coast. Derek was heir to the empire, and he seemed charmed by my Maya. He held doors, brought flowers, said all the right things. "Mrs. Williams," he'd said, shaking my hand with practiced ease, "Maya talks about you constantly. It's clear where she gets her strength and grace." I'd wanted to believe him. Lord knows I wanted to believe that a man could love my daughter for who she was, could see past the color of her skin in a world that so often didn't. But there was something in his mother Catherine's eyes when she met Maya for the first time, something cold and calculating that made my stomach turn. The wedding was a spectacle. The Richardsons insisted on paying for everything, hosting it at their estate in Connecticut. It should have been a happy day, but I noticed things. Little things. How Catherine steered Maya away from certain guests. How Derek's father Arthur barely acknowledged my side of the family. How Derek's sister Lauren made that comment about Maya's hair being so interesting in a tone that made it clear it wasn't a compliment. But Maya was glowing, and Derek seemed attentive, and I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that love could bridge any divide, that my daughter's happiness was worth swallowing my pride. For the first year, things seemed fine. Maya moved into Derek's penthouse apartment in Manhattan. She continued her career, though Catherine kept suggesting she should focus on starting a family instead. Maya would call me every week, and while I could hear a strain in her voice sometimes, she always insisted everything was wonderful. Then came the changes, subtle at first. Maya started canceling our weekly brunches. When we did meet, she seemed tired, distracted. She'd lost weight. There were circles under her eyes that no amount of makeup could hide. When I asked if everything was okay, she'd smile, that tight, brittle smile that mothers know means nothing is okay, and say, "Just busy with work and adjusting to married life, Mama." I didn't push. God forgive me, I didn't push because I didn't want to be that mother-in-law who interfered. I wanted to respect her marriage, her choices, her space. How did we get here? How did I let it get this bad? The warning signs started about 6 months ago, though I didn't recognize them as warnings at the time. It was a Sunday afternoon when Maya called, her voice strained. "Mama, can I come over?" "Of course, baby, you never have to ask." She arrived an hour later, and I knew immediately something was wrong. She was wearing long sleeves despite the summer heat, and when she reached for her coffee cup, the sleeve rode up just enough for me to see bruises on her wrist. Finger-shaped bruises. "Maya, I bumped into the kitchen counter," she said quickly, pulling her sleeve down, too quickly. "You know how clumsy I can be." My daughter had never been clumsy a day in her life, but when I tried to press, she changed the subject, asked about my book club, my garden, anything but her own life. An hour later, Derek called and Maya practically jumped. She left in a hurry, claiming they had dinner plans with his family. I watched her go, my heart heavy with a dread I couldn't name. The next warning came at Derek's father's birthday party in August. The Richardsons had invited me. They always invited me to major events, though I suspected it was more about appearances than genuine welcome. I arrived at their estate to find Maya in the kitchen, helping the catering staff despite being a guest. "Sweetheart, what are you doing?" I asked. "You should be out there with the family." "Catherine asked me to make sure everything was perfect," Maya said, not meeting my eyes. "You know how she is about her parties." Through the window, I could see Catherine holding court on the terrace, laughing with her country club friends. Derek stood beside his mother, drinking champagne and schmoozing with business associates. Neither of them seemed to notice or care that Maya was playing servant at her own father-in-law's party. I started to object, but Maya grabbed my arm. "Please, Mama, don't make a scene. It's easier if I just do what she wants." That sentence haunted me for weeks. My strong, accomplished daughter, reduced to tiptoeing around her husband's family, desperate to keep the peace. But she was an adult, and she'd asked me not to interfere, so I bit my tongue and helped her arrange the dessert table instead. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago, though I didn't know it at the time. It was a Tuesday evening when my phone rang. Maya's number. I answered immediately. "Mama." Her voice was small, broken. Can you come get me?" My heart stopped. "Where are you? Are you hurt?" "I'm at the apartment. Derek's at a business dinner. I need my mother." I was out the door in seconds, breaking every speed limit between my house in Brooklyn and their penthouse in Manhattan. When Maya opened the door, I gasped. Her left eye was swollen, already turning purple. Her lip was split. She'd tried to cover it with makeup, but nothing could hide the damage. "Maya, he didn't mean to," she said immediately, the words spilling out like a rehearsed script. He was stressed about a deal falling through, and I said something stupid, and he just snapped. "It was my fault, Mama. I should have known better than to push him when he's stressed." I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab my daughter and never let her go back to that man. But I'd seen enough domestic violence cases through my church's women's ministry to know that pushing too hard, too fast, could drive her further into his arms. Abusers isolate their victims. They make them believe they deserve the abuse. They make them defend their abusers, so instead I held her. I let her cry on my shoulder, and when she'd calmed down, I said quietly, "Baby, you don't deserve this. No one deserves this. You could come stay with me. We could figure this out together." "I can't leave him, Mama," she whispered. "I love him, and it was just one time. He apologized. He cried. He promised it would never happen again." They always promise, and it always happens again. She made me swear not to tell anyone, not to confront Derek. She said she could handle it, that it would get better. Against every instinct I had, I agreed. But I also made a mental note to document everything, to be ready to help her escape when she was ready. I should have done more. I should have forced the issue. But you can't save someone who isn't ready to be saved, and Maya wasn't ready yet. Not until Christmas Eve. The Richardsons hosted their annual Christmas Eve party at their estate, a massive colonial mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut, complete with all the trappings of old money. Crystal chandeliers, original artwork, a staff of servers in formal attire. It was the kind of party designed to remind guests of their place in the social hierarchy, and the Richardsons sat firmly at the top. Maya had called me 2 days before, insisting I come. "It would mean a lot to me, Mama. Please." There was something desperate in her voice that made me agree, though I hated these events. I hated the way Catherine looked down her nose at me. I hated the way Arthur referred to me as "that woman" when he thought I couldn't hear. I hated the way Derek's friends would ask me invasive questions about urban culture as if I was some kind of anthropological specimen. But for Maya, I would endure anything. I arrived at 7. dressed in my best, a burgundy dress I'd bought for my church's anniversary celebration. A server took my coat, and I followed the sound of laughter and Christmas music to the main parlor. The scene was something out of a magazine spread. A massive Christmas tree adorned with what had to be thousands of dollars worth of ornaments, garland draped perfectly over the marble fireplace, champagne flowing freely, guests in designer clothes discussing their vacation homes and stock portfolios. Catherine spotted me immediately. "Jasmine," she said, not bothering with the auntie my family used or even a simple Mrs. Williams. Just my first name, as if I was the help. "How nice of you to come. Maya mentioned you might make an appearance." "Wouldn't miss it," I said evenly. "Where is Maya?" "Oh, you know her." Catherine waved her hand dismissively. "Always finding something to do. I think she's checking on the catering or something. Such a thoughtful girl, always trying to be useful." The condescension dripped from every word. Before I could respond, Derek appeared with a glass of whiskey in hand. "Jasmine," he nodded. "Good to see you. Help yourself to drinks and appetizers, plenty to go around." "Where's my daughter, Derek?" "Around somewhere," he shrugged. "You know how these parties are, she'll turn up." Something in his casual dismissal set off alarm bells. I excused myself and went looking for Maya, checking the kitchen, the library, the countless rooms in this ridiculous mansion. Catering staff hadn't seen her. None of the guests had noticed her. She wasn't answering her phone. Finally, I walked past a window that looked out onto the side terrace and my blood ran cold. There in the snow stood Maya. She was wearing a thin cocktail dress, the kind you wear to a party, not the kind you wear outside in December in Connecticut. No coat, no scarf, no gloves. She was hugging herself, visibly shivering, her breath coming out in white clouds. Snow dusted her shoulders and her hair. She looked up at the house, at the window where I could see the warm glow of the party, and there were tears streaming down her face. I ran. I didn't care about decorum or making a scene. I flew through the house, grabbed my coat, and burst through the side door. "Maya!" She turned, and the look on her face, shame, fear, resignation, broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. "Mama, please," she said through chattering teeth. "Go back inside, don't make this worse." "Worse, baby, you're freezing. How long have you been out here?" "Hour, maybe more." She wrapped her arms tighter around herself. "Catherine said I was monopolizing Derek's attention at the party. She said I needed to give him space to network with important people. She told me to wait outside until she said I could come back in." "She what?" "It's fine, Mama, it's fine. I just need to wait a little longer and then—" "Absolutely not." I wrapped my coat around her shoulders and pulled out my phone. "We're leaving right now." "I can't. Derek will be furious." "Catherine will." At that moment, I looked up at the house and saw them. Catherine, Arthur, Derek, Lauren, and several guests all standing by the window, looking out at us. And they were laughing, actually laughing. Catherine said something that made the whole group roar with amusement, and Derek raised his glass in a mock toast. They were laughing at my daughter, at their wife, their daughter-in-law, standing in the snow like a dog that had been put outside. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was deliberate cruelty, and they were enjoying it. That's when something inside me snapped. I pulled Maya close. "We're going home to my home, and you're never coming back here." "Mama, you don't understand. If I leave now, if I disobey, let me worry about that, baby. Right now, you need to get warm before you get hypothermia." I half-carried my shaking daughter to my car, cranked the heat, and drove straight to my house. She didn't protest. She didn't cry. She just sat there, staring straight ahead, as if she'd been broken into pieces and didn't know how to put herself back together. At home, I ran her a hot bath, made her tea, wrapped her in blankets. Slowly, the shivering stopped. The color returned to her skin, but the damage went far deeper than the cold. As she warmed up, the whole story came pouring out. The marriage had been a nightmare from the start. The Richardsons had never approved of her. She was too black, too urban, too new money for their taste. Catherine had spent 3 years systematically breaking Maya down, criticizing everything from her hair to her clothes to her career to her very existence. She said I was lucky Derek was willing to overlook my background, Maya said, voice hollow. She said I should be grateful he married me at all, considering my unfortunate genetics. She said any children we have will have to work twice as hard to overcome my side of the family tree. Each word was a knife to my heart. Derek, it turned out, was no better. The charming man who'd courted my daughter was a mask. Behind closed doors, he was controlling, belittling, and increasingly violent. He monitored her phone, her emails, her movements. He'd forced her to quit her job because Catherine said it was inappropriate for a Richardson wife to work. He'd isolated her from her friends, claiming they were beneath her new social standing. The physical abuse had started 6 months ago, around the time I'd first seen those bruises. It had been escalating. The split lip I'd seen 3 weeks ago wasn't the worst of it. Maya pulled up her sleeves and showed me more bruises, cigarette burns, a scar from where he'd thrown a glass at her head. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, tears streaming down my face. "Baby, why didn't you come to me sooner?" "Because I was ashamed," she whispered. "Because I'm supposed to be strong. You raised me to be strong, and I let myself become this pathetic thing. I defended him, Mama, even to myself. I kept thinking if I could just be better, thinner, quieter, more obedient, he'd love me the way he used to, or the way I thought he used to. This is not your fault. None of this is your fault. I know that now. Sitting in that snow, watching them laugh at me through the window, something clicked. I saw myself through their eyes, a joke, an object to humiliate for their entertainment. That's when I realized Derek never loved me. His family never accepted me. I was just a toy, something exotic and different to play with until they got bored. We sat in silence for a moment, holding each other. Then Maya looked at me with determination I hadn't seen in years. "I want to leave him, Mama, for real this time, but I'm scared. The Richardsons are powerful. They have lawyers, money, connections. If I just leave, Derek will come after me. Catherine will spread lies about me. They'll destroy my reputation, maybe even press charges for something they make up. They'll make sure I can't work in this city again. I need to be smart about this." My daughter was right. The Richardsons didn't just have money. They had the kind of power that comes from generations of wealth and influence. If we were going to do this, we needed to do it right. "Then we'll be smart," I said firmly. "We'll protect you legally, financially, and physically. And baby, if they want to play dirty, they're about to learn that this black woman from Brooklyn didn't raise no fool. They're about to learn what happens when you mess with my family." The next morning, while Maya rested, I made a call to my friend Brenda Washington. Brenda and I went back 30 years. We'd met at our church's women's ministry and had been close ever since. She was also a partner at one of Manhattan's most prestigious law firms, specializing in family law and domestic violence cases. "Brenda, I need your help, and I need you to keep this absolutely confidential." We met at a small cafe in Brooklyn, far from Manhattan's social circles where the Richardsons held court. Brenda brought along a colleague, Marcus Chen, who specialized in criminal law. I handed them a folder containing photos of Maya's injuries that I'd taken with her permission that morning, along with dates, times, and descriptions of abuse she'd documented. "This is serious," Marcus said, flipping through the photos, his expression darkening. "This is aggravated assault, battery, domestic violence. With this evidence, we could have him arrested today. But," I could hear the hesitation in his voice, "but the Richardsons will fight back hard. They'll hire the best defense attorneys money can buy. They'll try to paint Maya as unstable, vindictive, a gold digger who's making false accusations. If we're going to do this, we need an airtight case. We need more than just the abuse evidence," Brenda added. "We need to hit them where it really hurts, their finances and their reputation. The Richardsons' entire empire is built on their image as American aristocracy, pillars of society, charitable philanthropists. If that image cracks, the whole facade comes tumbling down." "What do you need me to do?" I asked. Over the next 2 hours, we developed a plan. It was risky, complex, and required Maya's cooperation, but if it worked, the Richardsons wouldn't just lose Maya, they'd lose everything. First, we needed evidence of Derek's abuse that couldn't be disputed. Brenda arranged for a forensic medical examination to document Maya's injuries officially. We scheduled it for that afternoon under an alias, ensuring the Richardsons couldn't interfere. Second, we needed to protect Maya financially. Marcus had her open new bank accounts that Derek couldn't access and helped her secure her personal assets. The prenuptial agreement Derek had insisted on before the wedding actually worked in Maya's favor. It detailed all the marital assets, and any deviation from those terms would be considered fraud. Third, and this is where it got interesting, we needed dirt on the Richardsons themselves. Brenda had a colleague who was a private investigator, a woman named Patricia Song who specialized in high-net-worth cases. If there were skeletons in the Richardson closet, Patricia would find them. "Get me everything you can on Derek, Catherine, Arthur, and Lauren Richardson," I told Patricia when we met. Financial records, business dealings, anything that might be illegal or unethical. Patricia smiled. Oh, I know the Richardsons. I've crossed paths with them before on other cases. They're not as clean as they pretend to be. Give me 2 weeks, I'll find their secrets. You have 1 week, I said. My daughter isn't spending one more Christmas with those monsters. Back at my house, Maya was hesitant. Mama, I want out, but I don't want to destroy Derek. Despite everything, part of me still cares about him. Baby, I understand, but caring about someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you. And this isn't just about getting you out, it's about making sure they can't do this to anyone else. You think you're the first woman Derek has abused. You think this is the first time Catherine has tormented someone she deemed beneath her. Maya was quiet for a moment. There was another woman before me. Derek mentioned her once, Samantha something. They were engaged. The engagement ended suddenly. Catherine said she wasn't suitable for the family. I always wondered what that meant. Patricia, I called immediately. Add Samantha to your investigation list. There might be another victim. The pieces started falling into place faster than I expected. Patricia called 3 days later. You need to sit down for this. What she'd discovered was explosive. The Richardson Hotel Group, the family's prized business empire, was involved in some seriously shady dealings. Arthur Richardson had been laundering money through shell companies for years, hiding assets offshore to avoid taxes. Several properties had building code violations that had been mysteriously swept under the rug through bribery of local officials. There were harassment complaints from female employees that had been settled quietly with NDAs and payoffs. But the real bombshell was Derek himself. He had a sealed juvenile record. Patricia had connections who could unseal it, involving a violent assault on a previous girlfriend when he was 17. The Richardsons had made it disappear with money and influence. And Samantha, Derek's ex-fiancée, had taken out a restraining order against him after he allegedly tried to strangle her during an argument. That too had been buried with a generous settlement and an NDA. Derek Richardson has a pattern, Patricia said. He's a repeat offender who's been protected by his family's money his entire life. And Catherine and Arthur are accessories. They enable his behavior, cover it up, and silence his victims. Can you prove all of this? I asked. I can prove most of it. I have bank records, copies of complaints, documentation of the settlements. The juvenile record will take a court order, but with Maya's abuse case and Samantha's restraining order, we can make the argument that his history of violence is relevant. As for the business fraud, the IRS would be very interested in what I've found. And Samantha, where is she now? Lowe's angels. She moved across the country to get away from them. I can reach out to her, see if she's willing to testify. Do it! We need her. Things moved quickly after that. Brenda filed for an emergency restraining order on Maya's behalf, citing documented abuse and imminent danger. The judge granted it immediately based on the medical evidence. Derek was served with papers at his office, barring him from contacting Maya or coming within 500 feet of her. According to the process server, Derek's reaction was explosive. He screamed that Maya was lying, that she was a manipulative gold digger, that his family's lawyers would destroy her. He called his mother immediately, and within hours, Catherine Richardson was on the phone with Brenda's firm, threatening lawsuits for defamation. Let them threaten, Brenda said calmly. Empty threats from scared people. They know we have evidence and they're panicking. But I knew the Richardsons wouldn't go quietly. They would fight, and they would fight dirty. So we needed to strike first, and we needed to strike hard. Patricia continued digging and found the connection I'd been hoping for. One of the hotels in the Richardson chain had been investigated 3 years ago for human trafficking, specifically, allowing their premises to be used for illegal activities. The investigation had been dropped mysteriously, but Patricia found the original detective who'd worked the case, a retired NYPD officer named James O'Brien. I met with O'Brien at a diner in Queens. He was in his 60s, grizzled and cynical, but his eyes lit up when I mentioned the Richardsons. I knew they were dirty, he said. I had evidence linking their hotel in Atlantic City to a trafficking ring. Surveillance footage, testimony from victims, financial records. But suddenly, the case got shut down from above. My captain told me to drop it. The evidence disappeared from the locker. I was transferred to a different precinct. Someone got paid off, and the Richardsons walked away clean. Would you be willing to testify about the cover-up? Hell yes. I've waited 3 years for a chance to nail those bastards. You give me the opportunity, and I'll tell everything I know. Now we had a case. Not just against Derek for domestic violence, but against the entire Richardson family for fraud, bribery, and obstruction of justice. It was bigger than I'd imagined, and it required more firepower than Brenda's firm alone could provide. That's when Brenda connected me with the FBI. Agent Maria Torres was skeptical at first. Mrs. Williams, we're aware of the Richardsons. They're careful. They have powerful friends. Building a case against them would require substantial resources and time. What if I told you I could hand you everything you need? Financial records, witness testimony, documented evidence of bribery and fraud. Agent Torres leaned forward. Then I'd say we're very interested in hearing more. I spent 4 hours with Agent Torres and her team, laying out everything Patricia had found. They were particularly interested in the money laundering and the trafficking cover-up. With O'Brien's testimony and Patricia's financial records, they could build a RICO case, organized crime charges that would bring down the entire family. This is good, Agent Torres said finally. This is very good. But I need you to understand something, Mrs. Williams. A case like this takes time. Months, maybe years. Are you and your daughter prepared for that? We're prepared to do whatever it takes to stop them from hurting anyone else. Then let's make it happen. Meanwhile, Samantha agreed to come back to New York to testify. Patricia flew out to meet her, and what Samantha revealed was chilling. Derek hadn't just tried to strangle her, he'd held a pillow over her face until she nearly lost consciousness, all because she'd suggested postponing their wedding. Catherine had witnessed it and told Samantha that if she ever spoke about it, the Richardsons would ruin her life. They made me feel like it was my fault, Samantha said in her deposition. Like I'd provoked him. They paid me $1 million to sign an NDA and disappear. I took the money because I was terrified. But not a day goes by that I don't think about the next woman Derek would hurt. I'm so sorry I didn't come forward sooner. You're coming forward now, I told her. That's what matters. With Samantha's testimony, we had a pattern of violence spanning a decade. With O'Brien's testimony, we had evidence of criminal cover-ups. With Patricia's financial records, we had proof of fraud. The Richardsons' empire was built on sand, and we were about to wash it away. But I wanted more than just legal victories. I wanted them to feel the same humiliation they'd inflicted on Maya. I wanted their downfall to be public, spectacular, and complete. So I planned the trap. The Richardsons hosted a New Year's Eve gala every year, a black tie event at their hotel's grand ballroom, attended by politicians, celebrities, business moguls, and society elites. It was their chance to showcase their wealth and status, to remind everyone of their place at the top of the social hierarchy. This year's gala would be their undoing. Through Brenda's connections, I secured an invitation. The Richardsons probably thought it was a clerical error, or maybe they were so arrogant they didn't think I'd dare show my face after Maya had abandoned Derek. Either way, I was on the list. The plan was simple, but required precise timing. Agent Torres and her FBI team would be positioned outside, ready to make arrests the moment I gave the signal. Brenda and Marcus would be in the crowd with legal documents. Patricia would control a presentation I'd prepared, ready to display it on the ballroom's massive screens. And Maya, my brave, strong daughter, would be there to face her abusers one final time. "Are you sure you want to do this, baby?" I asked Maya the night before. "You don't have to be there. We can handle it without you." "No, Mama, I need to be there. I need to look them in the eyes when their world falls apart. I need them to know that I'm not their victim anymore." God, I was proud of her. The morning of New Year's Eve, we prepared like soldiers going into battle. Maya wore a stunning gold dress that made her look like the queen she was. I wore my best, a deep purple gown that had cost me a month's salary, but was worth every penny. We were going to walk into that ballroom with our heads high, and we were going to burn their empire to the ground. The Richardson Hotel ballroom was even more opulent than I'd imagined. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, champagne towers, a full orchestra playing. The guest list was a who's who of New York society. I recognized a senator, 2 judges, several CEOs, and enough social media influencers to ensure that anything that happened tonight would be recorded and shared worldwide. Perfect. Catherine spotted us first. Her face went through several emotions in rapid succession: shock, confusion, anger, and finally, contempt. "Asmin," she said icily, gliding over in a dress that probably cost more than my car. What a surprise, I wasn't aware you'd been invited. Oh, I was invited, I said smoothly. I wouldn't miss this for the world. Derek appeared at his mother's side, his face flushing red when he saw Maya. What the hell are you doing here? You have a restraining order that you're currently violating by approaching me, Maya said coolly. Would you like me to call the police now, or would you prefer to wait until later? His jaw clenched. You think you're so smart, you think you can embarrass me. This is my family's event, you're nothing, you're nobody. We'll see about that, I said. Arthur Richardson joined us, his expression carefully neutral. Ladies, perhaps we could discuss this somewhere more private. There's no need to create a scene. Oh, I think a scene is exactly what's needed, I replied. Catherine's eyes narrowed. Security, she called, but I held up my hand. Before you have us removed, you might want to see what I have to show everyone. I nodded to Patricia, who was positioned by the AV booth. The lights dimmed slightly, and the massive screens on either side of the stage flickered to life. The first image was Maya, standing in the snow on Christmas Eve, visible through the window where Catherine and Derek stood laughing. The photo was grainy but clear enough. The second image was a close-up of Maya's bruised face from 3 weeks ago. The third was a medical report documenting her injuries. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to the screens, then to our group. What is this? Catherine hissed. Turn that off immediately. Oh, we're just getting started, I said loudly, ensuring my voice carried through the room. You see, these are photos of my daughter, Maya Richardson, after being abused by her husband, Derek Richardson. This is what happens behind closed doors in your perfect family. Derek lunged toward the AV booth, but hotel security, who we'd gotten to first with a substantial cash incentive, blocked his path. This is defamation, Arthur bellowed. Lies, shut this down now. Lies, Maya's voice rang out clear and strong. These are medical records, sworn testimony, police reports. But please, let's talk about lies. Let's talk about the lie that your family is respectable. Let's talk about the truth. The next images appeared on screen. Bank records showing offshore accounts, documents detailing building code violations, copies of harassment settlements. Patricia had organized everything beautifully, each piece of evidence labeled, dated, sourced. The Richardson Hotel Group has been engaged in money laundering, tax evasion, and bribery for years, I announced. They've silenced victims of abuse and harassment with NDAs and payoffs. They've covered up crimes to protect their precious reputation. You can't prove any of this, Catherine shrieked, but her face had gone pale. Actually, we can, Marcus said, stepping forward with a stack of legal documents. We have testimony from former employees, financial experts, and law enforcement. We have evidence that Arthur Richardson paid off city officials to ignore safety violations that resulted in a construction worker's death in 2018. We have proof that Derek Richardson has a history of violence against women, including his previous fiancée, Samantha Davis, who was paid to stay silent. At the mention of Samantha's name, several guests gasped. Phones were out now, recording everything. This was going to be all over social media within minutes. Derek's face was purple with rage. That bitch is lying. They're all lying. This is a conspiracy. Is it? Samantha's voice came from the entrance. She walked into the ballroom, elegant and composed, accompanied by her lawyer. Because I have hospital records from when you tried to suffocate me, Derek. I have text messages where your mother threatened me. I have receipts for the $1 million your family paid me to disappear. Catherine stumbled backward. This is the truth, I finished. The truth you've been hiding for years. Lauren, Derek's sister, tried to slip toward the exit, but Brenda blocked her path. Oh no, Ms. Richardson. You're not going anywhere. You were complicit in covering up your brother's crimes. You helped draft the NDAs that silenced his victims. The ballroom erupted in chaos. Guests were talking over each other. Phones were flashing. Reporters who'd been attending as guests were scrambling to get statements. The Richardsons were surrounded, exposed, their carefully constructed facade crumbling in real time. And there's one more thing, I said, raising my voice over the din. I nodded to Agent Torres, who was waiting outside. She entered with a team of FBI agents in full tactical gear. The room went dead silent. Arthur Richardson, Catherine Richardson, Derek Richardson, You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering, Agent Torres announced. You have the right to remain silent. As she read them their Miranda rights, as the agents placed them in handcuffs, as the cameras flashed and the crowd gasped and whispered, I caught Derek's eyes. He looked at me with pure hatred. You did this, he spat. You destroyed my family. No, Maya said, stepping forward. You destroyed yourself. Every choice, every crime, every victim, that was all you. We just made sure the world finally saw who you really are. You'll regret this, Catherine shrieked as agents led her away. We have lawyers. We have friends. You'll pay for this. Your lawyers can't help you now, Brenda said calmly. Your friends are going to run as far from you as possible to avoid being associated with this scandal. And as for paying, that's exactly what you're going to do. Maya's filing for divorce and suing for damages. Between the abuse, the fraud, and the emotional distress, I estimate she'll be entitled to quite a substantial settlement. Arthur, ever the businessman, tried one last gambit. Name your price. Whatever you want, just make this go away. There is no price, I said. Some things can't be bought, like justice, like dignity, like my daughter's freedom from your poisonous family. As the FBI led the three Richardsons out in handcuffs, the ballroom erupted again. Guests were recording, calling their contacts, posting to social media. Within an hour, Richardson arrest was trending nationally. By midnight, every major news outlet was covering the story. Hotel Empire family arrested at their own New Year's gala. Lauren Richardson, the only family member not arrested that night, stood in the corner, shell-shocked. Her careful social climbing, her membership in the right clubs, her marriage to a hedge fund manager, all of it was tainted now by association with her family's crimes. Maya and I left the ballroom together, walking past photographers and reporters shouting questions. We didn't stop to comment. We didn't need to. The evidence spoke for itself. Outside in the cold December night, Maya took a deep breath of free air. It's over, she said, tears streaming down her face. It's really over. Not quite, baby, I said gently. There's still the trial, the divorce proceedings, the media circus. But the worst is over. You're free from them. She hugged me tight. Thank you, Mama. Thank you for believing me, for fighting for me, for not giving up. Baby, I would burn down the whole world for you. The Richardsons got off easy. The fallout from that night was extensive and satisfying. Derek Richardson was charged with multiple counts of assault, battery, and witness tampering. The unsealed juvenile record in Samantha's testimony established a pattern that made a conviction all but guaranteed. He was denied bail and spent the next 6 months in jail awaiting trial. Catherine and Arthur Richardson faced fraud and money laundering charges. The IRS seized their assets, froze their accounts, and launched a full audit of their business dealings. The Richardson Hotel Group's stock plummeted. Properties were sold to cover legal fees and tax debts. The empire they'd spent generations building collapsed in a matter of months. Lauren Richardson's husband filed for divorce within a week, citing irreconcilable differences, but really just trying to distance himself from the scandal. She lost custody of her children and her Park Avenue apartment. Last I heard, she was living in a modest condo in New Jersey, working as a real estate agent. Maya's divorce was finalized within 4 months. The prenuptial agreement that was supposed to protect Derek actually worked in her favor. Because Derek was facing criminal charges and had hidden assets, the prenup was voided. Maya was awarded a significant settlement, not nearly as much as the Richardson fortune, but enough to set her up comfortably for life. More importantly, 3 other women came forward with stories of abuse by Derek Richardson. Our case gave them the courage to speak up. Derek eventually pleaded guilty to multiple charges in exchange for a reduced sentence of 15 years in prison. He's currently serving time at a medium security facility, no longer the pampered heir to a hotel empire, but just another inmate. Catherine and Arthur took a plea deal as well. Arthur got 10 years for fraud and tax evasion. Catherine got 5 years for obstruction of justice and witness tampering. Both are currently incarcerated, their reputations destroyed, their fortune gone. The Richardson Hotel Group went bankrupt and was purchased by a consortium of investors who renamed it and immediately implemented strict policies against harassment and discrimination. Former employees came forward with their own stories of abuse and discrimination, resulting in additional lawsuits that further drained what remained of the Richardson assets. As for Maya and me, were doing better than ever. Maya moved back to Brooklyn, into a beautiful brownstone just 2 blocks from my house. She started her own marketing consultancy, and within a year, she had more clients than she could handle. The publicity from the case, while initially difficult, eventually worked in her favor. She became an advocate for domestic violence survivors, speaking at conferences and working with nonprofits to help other women escape abusive situations. She started dating again slowly, carefully, but with the wisdom that comes from surviving something terrible. She's currently seeing a kind, gentle man named James who teaches high school English and treats her like the queen she is. I approve. As for me, I returned to my normal life, but with a new reputation. People in our community started calling me Auntie Jasmine the Dragon Lady, a title I wear with pride. When someone in our neighborhood is being abused or taken advantage of, they come to me. I connect them with resources, help them plan their exits, and if necessary, I help them fight back. I also wrote a book about our experience, Breaking the Cycle, One Mother's Fight Against Abuse and Corruption. It became a bestseller, with all proceeds going to domestic violence shelters. I've been interviewed on news programs, podcasts, and at speaking engagements. I tell Maya's story with her permission, and my story of how we took down an abusive family that thought they were untouchable. The other day, I received a letter from someone I never expected, Catherine Richardson. She wrote to me from prison, asking if I would consider supporting her parole application. She claimed she'd found God and seen the error of her ways. She wanted to apologize to Maya and rebuild her life. I read the letter once, then fed it through my shredder. Some people don't deserve second chances. Some people have caused too much harm, hurt too many people, destroyed too many lives. Catherine Richardson enabled her son's violence for decades. She tormented my daughter and countless other women. She used her wealth and power to silence victims and protect abusers. She can find God all she wants. She can apologize to the prison chaplain. But my daughter doesn't owe her forgiveness, and I certainly don't owe her support. Looking back now, I realize that Christmas Eve was both the worst and best night of Maya's life. It was the night she hit rock bottom, standing in the snow while her abusers laughed. But it was also the night she found her strength again, the night she decided to fight back, the night that set everything in motion. People ask me if I have any regrets about how I handled the situation. Some say I was too harsh, that I should have tried to resolve things privately, that I destroyed people's lives unnecessarily. To those people, I say this: I protected my daughter. I stopped abusers from hurting more victims. I exposed criminals who were hiding behind their wealth and privilege. If that makes me harsh, so be it. The Richardsons forgot one crucial thing: never underestimate a Black mother protecting her child. We are forged from survival, strengthened by generations of fighting systems designed to break us. We know how to be strategic, patient, and absolutely ruthless when necessary. They thought Maya was alone and vulnerable. They forgot she had me. I'm Auntie Jasmine, and I don't play about my family. I don't accept disrespect. I don't tolerate abuse. And I absolutely will not allow anyone to hurt my daughter and get away with it. 3 weeks ago, I attended Derek's parole hearing. He served 8 years so far, and his lawyers argued that he'd been a model prisoner, that he'd completed anger management courses, that he deserved early release. Maya didn't want to go, but she wrote a victim impact statement that I read on her behalf. I detailed every injury, every trauma, every way his abuse had affected her life. I described finding her in the snow on Christmas Eve. I looked Derek directly in the eyes and said, "You don't deserve freedom. You don't deserve peace. You deserve every single day you spend behind bars." The parole board denied his application. He'll serve the rest of his sentence. As I left the hearing, Derek's public defender tried to guilt me. "You know, Mr. Richardson really has changed. He's not the same man he was." "Neither is my daughter," I replied. "She's stronger now, happier, free, while he rots in prison thinking about what he lost." Last Christmas, a year after that terrible night, Maya and I hosted a dinner at my house. We invited Samantha, who's become a good friend to both of us. We invited Brenda and Marcus and Patricia and Agent Tours. We invited James, Maya's new boyfriend. We invited the women from our church's domestic violence support group. My house was full of laughter, warmth, and love. Maya stood by the fireplace, wearing a red dress and a genuine smile, surrounded by people who respected and cherished her. She caught my eye across the room and raised her glass in a silent toast. This was what Christmas was supposed to be. Not cruel games and humiliation, but genuine love and celebration. As midnight approached, Maya pulled me aside. "Mama, I need to tell you something." My heart skipped. "What is it, baby?" "I just got a call. The judge approved the final settlement from the Richardson estate liquidation. After all the legal fees and restitution payments, there's still $8 million left. It's being distributed among Derek's victims as the court ordered." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. And Mama, I want to use my share to start a foundation, a nonprofit that helps domestic violence survivors escape their abusers, find housing, get legal support, rebuild their lives. I want to call it the Jasmine Foundation. After you, because you showed me that we don't have to accept abuse, that we can fight back, that we deserve better." I couldn't speak. Tears blurred my vision as I pulled my daughter close. "You don't have to name it after me, baby. But I want to. You saved my life, Mama. You reminded me who I was when I'd forgotten. You showed me what real strength looks like. The foundation needs to carry your name because it represents everything you taught me: dignity, courage, and the absolute refusal to let anyone make you less than you are." The Jasmine Foundation launched 3 months later. In its first year, it helped 150 women escape abusive situations. We provide emergency housing, legal services, counseling, job training, and financial support. We partner with law enforcement and prosecutors to hold abusers accountable. We've already inspired similar programs in 3 other cities. Last month, I spoke at a fundraising gala for the foundation. As I stood at the podium, looking out at hundreds of supporters, I thought about how far we'd come from that terrible Christmas Eve. "My daughter Maya and I learned something important," I told the crowd. "We learned that abusers thrive in silence. They count on victims being too scared or ashamed to speak up. They count on society making excuses for them, especially when they're wealthy or influential. But when we break that silence, when we expose the truth, when we fight back, we take away their power." The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. After the gala, a young woman approached me nervously. "Auntie Jasmine," she said. "I'd become Auntie Jasmine to many of the women the foundation helped. I just wanted to thank you. 6 months ago, I was in the same situation as your daughter. My husband was abusing me and his family was covering it up. I saw your interview and I found the courage to call the foundation. They helped me escape. I'm safe now and I'm rebuilding my life. You saved me." I hugged her tight. "You saved yourself, baby. You made the choice to leave, to fight, to survive." I just helped open the door. But as I watched her walk away with her head held high, I thought, this is why we did it. This is why we took down the Richardsons so publicly, so completely. Not just for Maya, but for all the other women who needed to see that abusers can be beaten, that money and power don't make you untouchable, that justice is possible. Some people still think I went too far. They say I was vindictive, that I destroyed a family out of revenge. To them, I say, the Richardsons destroyed themselves. They chose to abuse. They chose to cover up crimes. They chose to believe they were above the law. All I did was make sure they faced consequences for their choices. And yes, I enjoyed it. I won't apologize for that. I enjoyed watching them get arrested in front of their society friends. I enjoyed watching their empire crumble. I enjoyed knowing that Derek would spend years behind bars thinking about the woman he thought he could break. Because here's the truth they never understood. You can't break what's already been forged in fire. Black women have survived centuries of oppression, discrimination, and violence. We've been underestimated and dismissed and told we're less than. But we've persisted. We've thrived. And when pushed too far, we fight back with a fury that shakes the foundations of the world. I am Auntie Jasmine. I am a Black woman in my 50s who has seen enough, survived enough, learned enough to recognize betrayal when I see it. I raised my daughter to be strong, and when someone tried to break that strength, I reminded her and them that we don't break easily. The Richardsons learned a hard lesson: never underestimate a Black mother's love. Never assume that someone's kindness means they're weak. Never believe that your wealth and power make you invincible. Because somewhere out there is a woman like me, a mother, an auntie, a grandmother, who's watching, waiting, gathering evidence. And when you push too far, when you hurt someone we love, when you think you've won, that's when we strike. That's when your world falls apart. That's when you learn that justice doesn't care about your bank account or your last name or your connections. Justice just cares about the truth. And the truth is this: The Richardsons thought they could humiliate my daughter and get away with it. They thought wrong. Some say I'm too fierce, too unforgiving, too willing to burn bridges. But I say I'm just protective of what matters most: family, dignity, and the unshakable belief that everyone deserves to be treated with respect. If that makes me a dragon, then I'll wear my scales with pride. And to anyone out there who's suffering in silence, who's being abused or controlled or humiliated, know this: you are not alone. There are Auntie Jasmines everywhere, ready to fight for you, ready to stand with you, ready to help you reclaim your life. You just have to take that first step. Make that call, tell your truth. The rest of us will handle the dragon slaying. As I finish writing this, Maya just called. She's pregnant. She and James are having a baby, my first grandchild. She's nervous but excited, and she wanted to know if I'd be there for her. "Baby," I said, "I'll always be there for you, always." "I know, Mama, you proved that." And I'm going to be the same kind of mother to my child, the kind who protects them fiercely, who teaches them their worth, who never lets anyone make them feel less than they are. You'll be an amazing mother. I learned from the best, Auntie J. Auntie J, my daughter, still calls me that sometimes, even though she's grown. It reminds me of who I am, not just a mother, but an auntie to everyone who needs protection, guidance, and someone in their corner. That Christmas Eve when I found Maya shivering in the snow will haunt me forever. But it also changed everything. It woke us both up. It showed us who people really were. And it set in motion a chain of events that not only freed my daughter but has helped hundreds of other women find their freedom too. The Richardsons are gone, forgotten by the society that once celebrated them, their name now synonymous with corruption and abuse. Maya is thriving. I'm proud and at peace. And if anyone thinks of trying to hurt my family again, I have one message. I'm Auntie Jasmine, and I don't lose.